I think Target employees should actually just wear t-shirts while working that say, no, I cannot check in the back, because I don't understand why they're so upset that people come and ask them that. I'll be brutally honest with you guys. I've only ever asked like 3 employees since I started collecting, which is, quite a few years, but I know it's kind of like a consistent thing in the community to check their online inventory stock. And then if it says that they have some and they're not on the rack, then just ask an employee. It's not the end of the world. All you need to do is like walk a few extra steps and pretend to check. Okay, that's all you really need to do. At the end of the day, they're not asking you to like donate blood or donate one of your kidneys. Just check in the back. That's it. Okay, people are rabid about their collectibles, but at the same time, as normies, we probably shouldn't make their lives any harder. Working at Target already sounds, pretty intense. Anyways, all jokes aside, let's get straight into today's video. I actually did want to talk a little bit about something that's been happening over the past few years, really since McFarlane got the license to make DC products. And look, I'll be brutally honest with you guys. I wanted to make this video like short and sweet and simple, but honestly, I'm going to kind of ramble a little bit. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here because something kind of popped up into my tiny little reptilian brain the other day. I was going through Big Bad Toy Store, and as you guys know, I do keep up with Big Bad Toy Store just because they have the best promotional images, okay? They don't sponsor me, nothing crazy like that. It's just they have the best images, and I just usually gravitate more towards their website. I mean, like Entertainment Earth, I don't know, there's something missing about their website that just doesn't make me want to go in there. And then if I go on to like Amazon, I always get ads for like random stuff like, hey, here's this bed frame that maybe you're interested in, or diapers. Yes, I probably am interested, but not at this particular moment in time, okay? So that's kind of the main reason why my go-to is Big Bad Toy Store. I don't know, maybe it's just the name of the website, Big Bad Toy Store. I don't know. Look, anyways, that's just my go-to. I usually go on there, and I was checking a lot of like their exclusive stuff because I noticed that they did have a 3-0 Iron Man exclusive action figure. I think that was limited to like 500 total, which is, a pretty low number, even for a $100 collectible. But this kind of led me down a really, really deep rabbit hole, and I wanted to kind of look at some of the other exclusives that they've had for Big Bad Toy Store. And I guess not really just Big Bad Toy Store, right? Like we've had a lot of McFarlane Store exclusives, Entertainment Earth exclusives. I know some of those are like the sketch white and black variants, which, look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think it depends on the exclusive. It depends on the variation. Like I know they've had like patina variants of certain figures, like the Kingdom Come Batman not too long ago, which is, a great example of something that kind of had like a scarcity to it, but not really. And then you've had like the Frostbite editions from, what was it, the GameStop exclusive line, which I think is an absolute joke. It just depends on the figure. It depends on the character. I think the Jokerized Target exclusive ones are an absolute joke. But from time to time, they'll release some of these exclusive variants that I think kind of make sense on the surface. Like not so much as action figures, but just as kind of like collectibles in general. You have, as I mentioned, the sketch variants from Entertainment Earth, which are not great like in and of themselves, but I kind of get why people would purchase some of these, throw them up on a shelf. They look really cool. They have a pretty creative design to them, black and white variation, and they appeal to not only action figure collectors, but clearly to the comic book community, right? That's something that they're into. We see a lot of these variants. I know there was a Dark Knight Returns variant not too long ago. And the real question here is, over the past few years, I've noticed, at the beginning when McFarlane first acquired the license, he really didn't have a semblance of consistency, right? Like we didn't even know what a platinum edition was. We didn't know the difference between them. Like the first go around, he was essentially releasing gray action figures. That was the platinum version with no paint on them, which was a joke. But as time has gone by, he's kind of tried to explain how things happen and how things go about. But honestly, one of the bigger questions that has always remained above all else is whether these numbers are accurate. According to Big Bad Toy Store, they have, for example, the Grim Knight white variant that they have on Big Bad Toy Store. They have the Endless Winter Aquaman, which is also a Big Bad Toy exclusive. It was just a variation on the color scheme, and those were also varied to 3,000 action figures each. There was also a variant Martian Manhunter that was exclusive to Big Bad Toy Store, and in case you guys are wondering, it was also limited to only 3,000. And then you have the year 2 color palette exclusive for Big Bad Toy Store Batman. that one was also limited to, you guessed it, the same exact number, about 3,000 of these. What was interesting was at the first go around, when we first started to get glimpses of these exclusives, for the most part, they were flying off the shelves. I mean, they literally couldn't stay in stock. I was, at the front lines, kind of being against this whole variant store exclusive line, because I thought it was cheap. I thought that McFarlane was really taking advantage of the consumer. They were essentially just repackaging these figures with a different color variation. That was it. There was nothing intricate about it. I think some of them had new packaging. So really the only difference between the original one and the re-released store exclusive was a different color job, a different paint job, and then different packaging sometimes, not all the time. And then the front would, tell you what the limit was on that particular collectible. Like sometimes there was a limited run of only 500 or 3,000. I think I've seen them as high as 7,000. I think Entertainment Earth has usually had a larger number, and that probably just has to do with the retailer. The manufacturer asks the retailer, how many of these can you sell if you want a store exclusive, and they usually just say, hey, 3,000 is a good number, or maybe 5,000, whatever the case may be. It felt like what they were trying to do here was manufacture scarcity. They were trying to make it look like these figures were only going to have a very, very small print number, and in most cases it was working. I mean, these were flying off the shelves. People were jumping over one another to try to get these collectibles, and most people, let's be brutally honest, were probably just storing them in a bin somewhere, hoping that they would climb in price. Now, a lot of these entertainment sketch variants, a lot of these other variants that are from other retailers have actually garnered a decent amount of following. A lot of them have gone up in price. I think originally the Entertainment Earth ones were about $30, and you can even sneak some Big Bad Toy Store collectible store exclusive collectibles in there from McFarlane that were also retailing for about $30. You may see some of them climb for as high as 100. Now, the real question here is whether the artificial scarcity just, took the market completely out of it. Like, were they just so bummed out by the fact that these figures were not climbing in value consistently, like only certain characters were going up, and people lost complete interest in the line? Or maybe is it that McFarlane is actually losing the license next year? Does that have something to do with it? Or, in my personal opinion, which I'm kind of starting to lean more towards, is the number just like a representation of the scarcity of the figure? Like, it's not necessarily accurate. Like, maybe that Endless Winter Aquaman didn't really have only 3,000 of these made. If you actually check on Big Bad Toy Store, it's on clearance for like $20. Same thing with the Martian Manhunter, and there are a few others that are exclusive to Big Bad Toy Store that are actually going for about $25 to $30 or 25 to 30% off, which is absolutely crazy. These are supposed to be extremely limited, only to 3,000 action figures. And if you look at, as I said, I just did a video on the 3-0 Iron Man, which is also a Big Bad Toy exclusive, and that had a print, or a limited print run, or a limited manufacturer run of only 500. And I know it's a completely different ball game here, because those, again, only 500, but you have to keep in mind that these are $100 collectibles compared to a lot of these McFarlane figures. Like, even if you compare some of these exclusive McFarlane action figures to 3-0, like, you can buy 3 exclusive McFarlane figures for one of these 3-0 action figures. So that should give you kind of like a representation of how maybe some of these numbers are not as accurate. Maybe it isn't just 3,000 of these being manufactured, because there was a time when 3,000 was a realistic number. Like, people were foaming at the mouth for these type of collectibles. And look, at the end of the day, I think regardless of what you want to believe, do you believe that it's just the consumers being really tired of this? Is it because he's losing the license? Is it because some of these are lackluster? Or is it just that it caught up to him? Like, maybe people caught on to the idea that he was being very cheap, very boring, very monotonous with a lot of these store exclusives, where it was just the same figure, just a different color palette, and eventually people just caught on to it. I think he was just decimating the market. I think if he had spread these out maybe through a few years, there was a slight chance that it would have been more successful. But once he started oversaturating the market with some of these store exclusives, I think people just kind of lost interest in the whole idea and the whole perspective of owning something that is only 1 in 3,000, which is actually not a bad number. To be brutally honest, it's not like a crazy limited amount, but a lot of like Funko Pops that are limited to like a few thousand usually fly off the shelves. They garner a bit of value on the secondary market. but we haven't seen that very consistently from a lot of these big bad toy store action figures from McFarlane. The real question is, what is it? Did they lie to us and only tell us that there's 3,000 of these being made, but maybe the number is much higher? Is it just that people lost interest in these store exclusives? Did people catch on to the fact that they were cheap, that it was the manufacturer kind of cashing in on body molds? I've said it before and I'll say it again, and this is probably, I'm going to try to limit the amount of times that I say this because it feels like I say it in every single video. But look, I'm not against reusing limbs or accessories or even entire body molds, at least if it's adding value to a display. Like if you want to re-release something that's really old, that hasn't, or that garners a bunch of value on the secondary market and is very difficult to find, granted, do it. If you want to maybe mostly reuse a body mold and add a head sculpt with different accessories, do it. But when it's just something cheap like this, where it feels like you're taking advantage of the consumer base and then trying to add that kind of like artificial scarcity, I think it's going to backfire. Regardless of how much you try to push on it, regardless of how profitable it may be to your business, I think eventually people will catch on. And I think that's honestly what has been happening with a lot of these store exclusives. I just use the big bad toy store exclusives as an example, but there are plenty out there. A lot of these Frostbite action figures are also hitting clearance shelves, and that just goes to show, if you're not going to put forth any effort into some of these store exclusives or variant editions, then people are just not going to be interested in them. They're not going to give you the time of day, especially when you're up against it. It's the end of the McFarlane era for the DC Multiverse line, and I think the bare bone of what he could actually do here is go all out. You know, go all in, give us all the obscure characters, everything that was left on the cutting room floor, give us that. Any obscure character that you have, any, you know, and any new advancements that you could have done to the DC Multiverse line, now is the time to do it, because honestly, it's all about legacy. It's how you will be remembered. And thus far, I think McFarlane has had a great run, but I think towards the end, he's kind of tailing off, releasing kind of these weird characters, cutting back, scaling back on accessories, things of that nature. So hopefully this kind of works itself out towards the end, because as I said, it's about how we want to remember McFarlane. And at this particular moment in time, I think he's definitely losing a lot of credibility with the DC collector line. But that is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Thank you guys for the support. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of rambling content, make sure to stay tuned. We're doing it on a daily basis. Stay safe out there, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.